When we were younger, we used to sit on the grass among the flowers. We just let the days pass by. People would tell us to get a grip of ourselves and get a job. We didn't care what we were told, 'cause when we were younger, we used to sit on the grass and go, damn, I don't wanna grow old. I wish I could turn back time. Stay up all night singing songs on the terrace. We didn't mind sitting out in the cold. It wasn't possible to make us embarrassed. We were free. Do you remember stealing smokes from your parents? Sometimes we got a bit out of control. When they found out we ran from home just to scare them, we were free. When we were 17. When we got older, we tried to stay in touch, but we had to move on. Life ran away from us. If I could go back, be 17 again, yeah, I would, just to see all my friends running around the city, acting crazy like we used to do. I wish I could turn back time. Stay up all night singing songs on the terrace. We didn't mind sitting out in the cold. It wasn't possible to make us embarrassed. We were free. Do you remember stealing smokes from your parents? Sometimes we got a bit out of control. When they found out we ran from home just to scare them, we were free. When we were 17. When we were 17. When we were younger, we used to sit on the grass and go, damn, I don't wanna grow old. Stay up all night singing songs on the terrace. We didn't mind sitting out in the cold. It wasn't possible to make us embarrassed. We were free. Do you remember stealing smokes from your parents? Sometimes we got a bit out of control. When they found out we ran from home just to scare them, we were free. When we were 17. When we were 17.
Wild animals and wild people, injuries and illnesses.
A 63-year-old woman was killed and her husband injured after a tree fell on their cabin.
These are just a few reasons why many people won't solo camp. But if you take just a few steps, just a few, you can mitigate most of those things and you can find solo camping to be dead set rewarding. Like so many things that I deal with out in the field here, most of it actually goes back to army. And there was a thing that we had there, it had to do with nuclear biological weapons and the gear that you used to wear, and it was top, as in threat orientated posture. And there was top 1, 2 and 3, 1 being the lowest, 3 being the highest. And what you would wear and how you would protect yourself would be directly related to the threat that was there. It's kind of like a risk assessment, but with artillery, I guess. And I approach this in the same way. Most of this threat orientated posture relates to solo camping and camping in general for that matter. And an example of that might be that where I am here right now, I'm in Kundruk, and the Murray River's just behind me here, New South Wales on the other side. And here I wouldn't have an issue at all sleeping on the ground right here because there's no crocodiles and stuff. But if I was doing the same thing up in the Northern Territory, I'd be thinking twice about where I was setting up to sleep on the ground. So that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. Most of it you'll find is just common sense. Most of it. So we're going to talk about wild animals, we're going to talk about wild people and other injuries and stuff, and how to get away from those and how to protect yourself from the absolute friggin' dingbats that can be out there. Let's talk about animals first. In Australia, obviously we have a lot of animals that can hurt you, poison you, kill you. And the key around all of this is just to understand where you are and what the threat of those animals are. It's not rocket science. For example, my setup used to be just the cruiser and the awning, and I'd sleep on a stretcher with a swag, an old traditional swag with the canvas folded over and a sleeping bag inside. That's how I used to sleep until one day or one night I was woken in the high country to a wild dog sitting there growling at my face, and there was a heap of them around. That was a cure for constipation right there. I didn't realise the threat was like that there. So I needed to deal with that, hence the camper trailer. That incident happened on the weekend of Australia Day, or it was the following day after the Australia Day long weekend. Up in the high country there, it was so busy, it was insane. I didn't even want to be there, but I was going there afterwards. And what I worked out is some people are just dead set friggin' pigs. And what had happened up there is there was a lot of food scraps on the ground. So I didn't realise this until later that this was the case. And the wild dogs have come in to eat those scraps, and I just happened to be there. They weren't coming after me as such, they were coming in for a feed. So if you are someone who is genuinely concerned about that sort of a threat from wild animals, that's probably your go-to, whether it's on a camper trailer or whether you put one of those on top of your rig. It's really up to you, but it's going to get you up off the ground. Chances are those wild dogs would have done absolutely nothing to me, but sleeping up there, I don't even think about it anymore. It doesn't bother me. The same thing goes for snakes and spiders. When you're on your own, you really don't want to get stung by one of those because the way that you deal with them, it's kind of hard to deal with on your own. You can do it, but try and avoid it. Snakes and spiders, snakes are generally more scared of you than what they are of them. You've probably heard that a million times. The more noise you make as you're walking through the bush on your own, the less likely a snake is coming to come after you. Similar situation when you wake up in the morning. If you are someone who sleeps on the ground, that's all cool, nothing wrong with that. Just make sure there's nothing there wriggling around in your sleeping bag before you get into it. Especially after you've had a few, you're probably less inclined to do it. So what I would generally do if I'm sleeping on the ground is not set anything up until I'm ready to get into it. Same goes with your boots. In the morning when you wake up, your boots are sitting right there. They're nice and warm from you having your feet in them, and you may get a wriggly friend that goes in there in the morning. So just knock them out before you put them on. For me, I just put them up on the shelf there. Nothing's going to get up there. I'm happy with this setup. Animals really doesn't bother me. Shouldn't bother you either. Being a theme yet, don't let these things bother you. When it comes to snakes kill very few people. They've probably got a bad rap, to be honest. You used to be able to say around 10 people in 100,000 people would be killed by a snake bite. That's since the 1900s. But since the year 2000, I think 1 or 2 people have died annually in Australia from snake bites. And plenty of people get bitten by them. But there's that much anti-venom out there now. As long as you get good treatment for it, into a hospital, you're dead set all right. It's really not as big an issue as you might think. It's probably more in here. And as long as you follow those steps that I said, you're going to be pretty safe. But if you do get stung, you need to be prepared for it. And the company that makes all the survival first aid kits, they also make a survival snake bite kit, and have it somewhere in your vehicle that you can get to very quickly. This is mine right here. They're on moly pouches, and that's it. You can take that to wherever you need to be. So this just clips on anywhere. Realistically, I could have pulled that off and it would have just come off. These are really good. There's a bandage that's in here that is very, very clever. And it's these bandages here. They call them smart bandages, I think. But you see there's little rectangles. The thing with treating snake bites is pressure and immobilisation. In the army, or with first aid even, just used to call them PIM bandages, pressure immobilisation. And The idea is to keep pressure on that limb where the bite is and keep it immobilised. And that kit, buy the kit, learn how to use it, but those little rectangles, getting that pressure right is critical. So those rectangles, when you stretch it out, when they turn to squares, you know they're the right size. Very, very clever bit of kit. So get yourself a snakebite kit and learn how to use it. The same thing can be said for the first aid kit by the same company. It's Survival is the name of the brand. See it there? Just Google it. They're all over the bloody shop. They're all like, you can bolt them on with mole, so they bolt on, strap onto pretty much anything. Learn how to use your first aid kit. Definitely learn how to use this sucker here. The main sorts of injuries that you're likely to get in a camping situation when you're on your own, one is the widowmakers. If you become complacent, I should say, in where you set up your camp and it's been windy, like it has been here lately, it has been horrendously windy. Widowmakers will absolutely kill you. Someone died just, I think, last week or the week before, not that far from here in Moama, and that was from a widowmaker. They are these sorts of things just here. That branch right there is probably, or potentially that's a widowmaker. Although where we are set up here, there's a good wind coming through here. If that was a widowmaker, it probably would have fallen off by now anyway. Regardless, I'm not under that. That's about 3 or 4 meters behind my setup. Where my setup is here, there's absolutely nothing here that can come down and crash down on my vehicle, me, or the setup that I've got. So as far as widowmakers go, it's pretty safe. The other sort of injuries that you are likely to get when you are solo camping are things like wounds from splitting wood, wounds from chopping vegetables and meat and stuff when you're cooking. Sharp injuries is what I'm talking about. So this here, where I'm splitting wood, you may have seen it in other videos. I do it very, very deliberately. Very deliberately. Don't just go thrashing about like you're at home. It doesn't matter in that situation, but out here, the last thing you want is to have a thumb cut off or a block splitter through your foot. So just do things, slow it down, think about it and do it deliberately. You've got no rush, there's no rush to do anything out here, just slow it down. Chances are you're going to walk away just fine. Next up, we'll talk about wild people. And what I mean by this is people who mean you harm or your gear harm, or somebody who wants to borrow something on a permanent basis from you. Being on your own is actually probably, I would say it's the best defense against that. And that's because when you're on your own, you know all the noises that you yourself are making. You know what the bush sounds like. You know what the birds sound like. Most importantly, you know what other man-made noises sound like. And if you didn't make it, you're instantly on alert. And you should be alert, not alarmed.
Be alert, but not alarmed.
Because believe it or not, even today, and all the crap that happens in the world, most people are genuinely good people. Most people. We don't care about those. We care about the dickheads that are out there who may well try and ruin your day. And we'll split them into 3 categories, if you like. That is thieves, and we'll call them yobbos, and we'll call them, I wanted to say Jetstar pilots, but that's probably not cool. Let's just say the people who actually want to do you harm. So thieves, yobbos, and people who are actually there to do some harm to you. Let's talk about thieves for a second. Thieves are the lowest form of scum on the planet. They're lower than pond scum. They are the worst people in the world. I've said it. But there's one thing that you can guarantee with a thief. They're freaking cowards, absolute cowards. So if you do confront them, there's a 99.9% chance they're going to just piss off and run away from you. And the best way around all of this with thieves, them borrowing something on a permanent basis from you, is just to keep your shit wide tight. Keep your stuff locked down when you're not there. If you need to leave your campsite, make sure it's all locked away. I've been up the high country so many times and I've seen people leave their chairs, swags, that sort of stuff out. And I wonder how on earth are these things not being pinched? That's because the right person hasn't come along yet and pinched it. So for your own peace of mind, lock things away. When I go to sleep, I lock all this away. Like the tables and the chairs are still there outside here, but anything that can be just picked up and walked away with, I've got it locked in the trailer. All of these doors here, they lock with a key. Even when I'm going on a decent trip, I will lock this in the morning before I start driving. because when I pull over at a set of lights or at a servo or something, I don't want some dingbat coming along. Just testing these. This is what I'm talking about. The people who do this sort of thing, they're just cowards and they're looking for a way, target of opportunity. I've seen people walk past other trailers and push buttons and go, oh, it's open. This one open? What can I pinch? Yeah? Keep it locked and you're not going to have an issue. Now, there are things like motion sensor lights or lights that you can put a motion sensor to and hang them off your awning poles so that when people come around it lights up, and that should be enough to make them piss off. But in theory that works. Part of me thinks all you're doing there is lighting the way so they can see all your shit and take it. So just lock it away. If it's locked away, they can't take it. The second thing is yobbos. I'm not really sure what else to call them, because I've got a feeling a few people that watch this are probably some of them. Because what I'm talking about here is a bunch of fellas, they get together in their jacked up cars and off they go to the high country with a fridge or 2 or 3 fridges full of piss, and they're going to get to wherever they can go camping. They go, this is a pretty good camp spot. There's only one other car here. Let's go set up next to him. And they get the loudest radio stereo situation that you can get going on and crank up the volume and start tossing back cans. And before you know it, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. You're wishing they were just piss off so you could sleep finally. And what do you do about those? One, you could say, hey fellas, I've got a can, let's get it on, and carry on with all those guys. And that's fine. Generally speaking, the guys who do this, they're fine. They're not going to cause you any harm whatsoever. If you've got a group of, say, 15 guys or 10 or 6 guys, whatever it is, it could be 5 or 6, there's going to be 1 or 2 of them in there that are going to be level-headed enough that when the others get a gut full of piss, they're going to keep them calm and not let them go over and bother someone else. They're going to be level-headed about it. Level-headed is what you are. So don't stress about that. The main thing with that sort of group is my sleep. That's all. I like being solo camping. That doesn't lend itself to solo camping when there's a big party going on 20 metres away. So what do you do about that? I think the best way to defend yourself against this is kind of fighting fire with fire. And I got this idea from, there was a supermarket, not a supermarket, a public toilet in Benalla, and it played, there's like music being piped out of the speakers in the roof, and it's all like orchestral music. It was because young kids used to go and hang out at the toilet and just be rat bags. They don't hang out there anymore because they don't like the music. So get yourself a playlist that is just so freaking terrible and get it cranking as loud as you can. When you see a group of people turn up, just crank that shit. Crank up that ABBA's greatest hits or whatever you think is going to dissuade that group of people, because you know that that group of guys turning up to get it on, they're going to be listening to music that we all like listening to. So find something that you don't like listening to. So when they rock up, get it cranking, and chances are they'll like, I don't want to be next to this guy, they'll move on a little bit. Failing that, get yourself some earplugs and get a good night's sleep. The one that we're probably, if you're watching at this point still, the reason that you're watching is because you're worried about, or you have someone in your life that is worried about a Wolf Creek situation. That's it. It's a Wolf Creek situation. Or a Jetstar pilot. Whatever the situation is. I'm talking about people who are there to do you harm. And what can you do about that? First and foremost, it's in your head. Stop watching movies if it bothers you, because it's in your head. These people are so far and few between, it's in your head. But we can go and look at different serial killers and stuff that have been through Australia, and chances are they've been taken from the bush. But it's in your head. It's so rare. If you let that sort of thing get to you too much, it's going to ruin your whole bloody trip, and you will not enjoy what it really is about solo camping. There's a couple of things, and it goes with everything that I say. One is mitigating it. One is letting people know where you are. So every time I go somewhere, my wife knows where I'm going. Maybe not when I leave the door and head out to the bush like I am here today. I drove around until I found a nice place that I'm happy to camp at. And I'll send her a drop pin on Google Maps or something like that, if I have reception. If I don't have reception on my phone is an iPhone 15 Pro Max. This phone here, when it's out of service for a period of time and you're not moving anymore, it will send you an alert. Like a little pop-up will come up on the phone and it will say, hey, you haven't moved, you want to send your location via satellite. I go yes, and I send it's an SMS basically from satellite to my wife's phone. It will tell her where I am. It'll give literally the grid coordinates of where I am. So if she hasn't heard from me for a few days, she knows exactly where I was then. But if push comes to shove and you've got some dingbat there at night time, they're doing stupid things and they're coming to your camp, and it has happened. I've had people come in, or a person come in, I don't know if it was a bloke or a chick, but they were walking in and I could hear their foot pads out there. Like I said, they're kind of like thieves in that most of the time they're looking for something easy. Someone walking in, they're probably going to try and pinch something. This here is your best line of defense, just a torch, a super bright torch. Because it's night time when they're doing this, get this shining in their face, they're going to leave. They're going to give you some bullshit excuse like, oh, I was picking up rubbish, or I was looking for my dog, or some bullshit like that. They were there to look for something to pinch off you or do you harm. This sort of thing is going to get rid of 99% of them. That 1% is the one that you're probably worried about. What do? You may be thinking straight away, get yourself a weapon. And this is actually the knife I used to carry on my webbing when I was in the army. It's actually an American survival K-bar. It's like a mini K-bar knife. It's not going to do shit. Just be mindful of that. And this goes with all weapons. I'm talking about knives, big machetes, firearms. All of those things can go into the same conversation. The conversation is, this is not America. Not everyone here has guns. Most of the people here with guns are either farmers, sporting shooters, or criminals. That's pretty much it. Or a small group of collectors. And with all of those people, guess what? You can't carry guns out in the bush. It's kind of wrong. It's illegal in some places, it's not illegal in others, unless you're there hunting, and that's it. In fact, here in Australia, you can't even use pepper spray. It's illegal. Except in Western Australia. I think Western Australia you can have pepper spray. Can you have pepper spray in Western Australia? Let me know. Regardless of all of those things, I think what weapons do and what they bring to the situation, to the equation, if you like, is they make you bolder than what you really are. Are you a proficient weapons handler? 20 plus years ago when I was in the army, I'd say, yes, I am, and I could defend myself no problem at all. But that's 20 years ago. That's some sore knees and sore back and big gut later. I'm not as proficient as I used to be. It doesn't mean that you bring a firearm with you, because chances are you're going to be breaking the law. Regardless of that, the proficiency is what matters. And if you're not proficient with it, basically what you've done there is potentially bring an unarmed person that's come into your situation and given them a nice weapon for you to take over. But the proficiency really does matter here. If you are not proficient with it, if you're not prepared to, well, face the consequences of doing something like that, all you're doing there is potentially giving an intruder a weapon to take off you and use against you. So I don't advocate for that at all. Because like I said at the beginning of this, most people are good. Most people are good. Very, very much the biggest majority they're going are good people. Now, these days it seems to me that if you and I disagree on something, we freaking hate each other forever until the end of the day, and we don't get together and have a beer at the end of the day. These days it seems like you say the sky is pink, I'll say it's blue, and it doesn't matter what else we say about anything else, we're going to hate each other. That's how it seems to be these days. But what I will say is that in the times of emergency, all that shit goes out the window. I'm not saying that someone's going to come to your aid because it's times of emergency. What I'm getting at is most people just aren't going to do this. It's such a low percentage of something happening. I guess at the end of the day, get it out of your head that something's going to happen to you. Nothing's going to happen to you, not from another person. It just doesn't happen. Any time that anyone has ever come anywhere near my camp setup, in all the years that I've done this, get yourself vocal, get yourself sounding aggressive, very, very high chance that they're just going to run away and not bother you. They're going to be more scared of you than you are of them. I don't think you should be carrying guns and stuff out there. I think you're going to get yourself in more trouble these days from the police than anything else. But learn the laws, go and talk to your local police and see what they have to say about the matter. You might be allowed to, but I'm certainly not going to sit here and advocate for it. At the end of the day, the chances of something happening to you while you're solo camping is virtually nil. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but it almost never. In fact, the two people that were killed by that Jetstar guy, there were two people, they weren't solo camping. So it's a very rare thing that it happens. make sure people know where you are. Get yourself some good lights, and keep stuff locked down when you can. What other tips do you guys have? Like what? There's a big world out there. I'm not the oracle of solo camping. What else do you guys think? Put it in the comments and share your information with everyone else, because I'm not the be all and end all. All right, guys, catch you later.